And then there's this. So you see, it doesn't really matter who God is. It doesn't really matter who extraterrestrials are. It doesn't really matter what physics, science, math, none of that really matters, but it still does, kind of. Let me explain. Let's say, what if we're in a simulation, right? Computer, matrix style, but we're not batteries to machines in a malicious way, no. This simulation is exactly like the Matrix, except it's for good. It's done for good. No one ever thinks of the simulation as being done for good. Everyone always thinks the simulation is being done negatively, maliciously, as if someone's always out to get us. And I understand fear is something that we experience because it's the natural emotion, right? The quickest emotion to invoke is fear because it's the best one to save your life. Because if you get the fuck out of there, you're good. Versus not, right? Pretty much 100% of the time. So that's why we think that the simulation, there's always some bad thing, machines, robots, Terminators. But I propose that it is the same thing, but it is done for good by us. What do I mean that? So, according to all of the things that I've read and learned so far, and I don't know if any of this is true, because you really don't know if any of this is true either. People still don't know what gravity is. They still argue about it. And physicists will tell you, no, that's what this is, but they don't know. Nobody actually knows. It's called zeticism, basically. And this is like anti-zeticism. Anything you can't verify with your own five senses, or even the sixth sense, you can't verify the sixth sense with the five senses, it doesn't exist. You don't know that it exists. All you know is what you've seen and what you've experienced, and that is not even all true because you have two blind spots that your imagination fills up for you constantly, which means if you're at the right angle, there could be another universe as you're turning, so it turns with you. Same shit. We don't know that time is going on a linear scale because that's just what we've been told. We don't know what the fuck time even is. If you strip everything down to bare zero and you don't know shit, nothing about anything. Because how many times have you had a dream and you were convinced that it was real? Like you knew for a fact that nothing else was real and somebody asked you right there, hey, is this real? You'd be like, of course, fuck, what are you talking about? Hi, yeah. So the simulation is done for good by us because we need to advance up here to the next level of evolution, which is maybe something that looks along the lines of the Greys, with big heads and scrawny bodies, because we're not going to need them anymore. Because strength, physical strength, exertion is actually just because of lack of here. So if I'm lifting up a boulder, up a fucking thing, and I'm dying, and a smarter person gets a cart and fucking wheels it up, he doesn't need that much strength because he's smart. He's using all of his shit up here. Then after that, we evolve into a spirit form. The interesting thing about humans, right, is that we can do both of those, right? But we're in that beautiful little evolutionary phase where when we die, we do go into spirit form, and then we come back into another human form. And that's how you gain your experience of how not to come back anymore. You need to come back into human form to be able to like regain your stupidity, kind of, so to speak. And by that, learning a lesson. Watching the guy fucking pull the boulder up on the rock and you're like, dead. Comes back and he's like, oh, now I got the fucking cart, you know? That's a metaphor, obviously. But let's say the earth exploded. It's dead, which is why we're getting all of these like fucking, and like UFOs coming, everyone wants to be here for this. Witness what? Witness what? Yeah, it's dead. It happened already. And it didn't happen too long ago, but it happened. And the thing is some of us saved ourselves. So let's say however many, the Mormons want to say, or the fuck it is, Jehovah's Witnesses want to say it's 144,000. I know a man said 10,000, whatever, it doesn't matter. Even if there's two. It's two people, in a pod. They're still human and they're still alive. But they've figured out a way to preserve their bodies in a cryogenic sleep so that the minds keep working. Because the mind is really essentially what's going to get you out of this physical body. Because remember, physical strength versus mind. Once you have enough mind, you're not going to need this. Once you're smart enough, you're not going to need your body. If you think about it, you're just going to float around like a spirit. because you could hold the energy without having atoms to, because like our bodies, they call it a meat suit. It's like a jacket. Like say we're cold as a spirit and we need a jacket, so we put this body on. We got to figure out how to deal with the cold without the body, and then we'll be fine. And that's why we say we're all one, because we might not be all one when we die in real human form, but in this simulation we're all one because we need to be in a simulation that makes our minds think we're still human, so we can continue to learn these lessons over and over and over. And as a way of replicating those lessons, we multiply ourselves as projections. So you ever see like a person, and the physical attributes, like the way their feet look, the way their toes are placed, the way their hands are, the way their nose and the bridge right here is, the ears, maybe they're floppy, like certain little things that remind you of another person. It's a completely different person. You've never heard their voice. They walk by you on the street and you're like, holy shit, that reminds me of, it doesn't look like her, but she reminds me of her with the way she looks, if you know what I mean. Well, that's because it's the same person. And it's whoever's being conscious at the moment is a reflection of the original consciousness that sees the person. You know how people look like their dogs? You ever see those, like owners that look like their dogs? It's because it's a projection of the same face and just an animal. So it's a filler. We need to fill ourselves with more humans, because the thing is, all the humans are still learning lessons, even though they're not real. They're acting like independent AIs or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And they're still learning the lessons that they need to learn, and gaining that little bit of knowledge that is going to essentially make us lose our jackets forever. But it all comes back to you, and you need to have more people because you feel populated. That's where you're used to, because before the Earth blew up, it was like this, right? So we put ourselves on a spaceship, continued this simulation, played it for ourselves, except the difference is maybe when we die, like here, we don't go back to the spaceship. When we die, we're still in the simulation, but it's like the loading dock of the simulation outside of the planet, where we feel eternal love and bliss. Like when people have the near-death experiences or take DMT, they feel this like gratifying love, and it's going to be okay. Thank you for reaching us. That's the loading dock. That's still us programming ourselves to give us the notion of being nice. Like when we die, we feel nothing but like genuine love, overwhelming love. And then when we come back to Earth, the idea is that we have that genuine, overwhelming love and we give it out. But some of us are dicks. You know what I mean? So that's okay though. It's not their fault. It's the fault of ourselves, because that's the consciousness splitting up into billions of people. Some of them blow people up. That's why I think maybe there's no nukes too. They haven't been detonated ever since that time, because that's something that the spaceship's fucking AI programmed into. No mas. Maybe that's why they sent the aliens. Like, you like playing with nukes? Send them some fucking fake aliens shits and blah, blah, blah. There probably are aliens, but we've never seen them because they don't fucking come by. So we kind of know what they look like because we get telepathic communications, because essentially time probably doesn't exist. And it's all in one, but it's hard to understand. It's basically like, think about it this way. How do I explain time not existing? Think about it if you had a fucking remote control, right? Eventually you're gonna die, right? So there is some space between when you're born and when you die. You're doing stuff, right? So say you knew exactly when that point was coming, right? Like wherever that is. And you had a remote control. You could speed up your life or slow it down, but you can't reverse. You can't go back. You could speed it up or you could slow it down as slow as you want, but you can't reverse, because you're going to die. That's what not having time is like. Boom, right? So we're on the simulation, and the idea here is that our simulated selves, which is our minds, become that smart with all the lessons that we're learning in the simulation here, and shed the jackets so that when we're in cryogenic state in the ship, we'll just be able to fucking let it go, and we're out. And that's what everyone's waiting for. It's for all of us here, because we're all one, tentacles to a big octopus, for all of us to realize what I'm saying to you right now, and for all of us to realize that the reason that they say to be kind to your neighbor, the reason they say love it comes back to you, the reason is because it's for you, dick. I am you. Remember? They're doing it for you. The person you're fucking robbing is you, dick. What's the point? So this little projection of you can get gratification for whatever the fuck you're gonna do with that money. Then you're gonna have to come back. And the thing is, the longer we go, we don't have enough time probably, because I don't know how long cryogenic sleep lasts. Do you? Who's piloting the ship? It's AI. It's the same one that's given us this fucking thing. The AI is our friend and this conspiracy theory. And it's working with us to save the human race, because there's only a couple of us left.